Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Our guest today, I'm very honored to have him on. He's a coach that's been around. He's one of the longest tenured high school head coaches in the state from the same high school. Rusty Phelps from Jennings High School in Jennings, Louisiana. Rusty, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure to be able to come on here and talk about our favorite subject, and that's football. So, and high school athletics. So, I mean, it's always an honor to be on here with you, Lee.
Rusty, tell everybody how many years you've been at Jennings, because I want people to know. If you're not from Lake Charles, people might not realize this.
27.
27 years. Amazing.
26 as a head coach and 1 year as an assistant.
Man, Coach, you're like, that's like a fossil today. You know, you don't see that, because this is my 25th year with the magazine, 28 just being in it, and you were one of the first coaches that I talked to when we started the magazine. When I got the magazine and started in '97.
Well, you know, Lee, I'm happy where my feet are. I like the people that I've worked with in administration and our central office, and it's a one school town, and you know, I just love the tradition, the history of Jennings High School football, and you know, it's just a great place to work.
I want to mention this: state champions. The school has state champions in 1939, in 1992. And you were state runner-up in 2019. And, Coach, what was it like getting to that state championship game? I mean, well-deserving. You've been close a few times. And I know y'all didn't win it, but it's not all about championships. Like I was talking with Dale Brown the other day, former LSU basketball coach, and several other people. It's not about just championships. It's about the hard work put into it and the gratification of experience and stuff. And then, obviously, I hope you win one before you retire. But, I mean, just what was it like experiencing that 19 season?
Well, I mean, you know, it was really a season of the tale of two seasons. If you know, I mean, we got off to a rough start. We were playing really good people. We kind of figured that we may struggle a little bit early because we had just unloaded like 26 seniors, you know, from the previous team. So, I mean, we absolutely had one starter back on offense and one starter back on defense. But then you could see from week to week that we were getting a little bit better. And, you know, and then down the stretch, you know, we really started winning some games. And then, I don't know, it's just like when we got to Carroll, the switch flipped and we started playing, you know, complete games. And, you know, that thing got rolling. Of course, you know, Lee, you got to have some luck. I mean, we won 3 1-point games in that stretch, and then we got beat by a great team in St. James. But I mean, it was so much fun, and it was kind of a relief, like you mentioned, been close several times, and you know, just I don't know, it was just like it was sure disappointed we lost, but man, you know. Just to be able to take your team down there, place that you bought into the community and lived in the community, and then finally be able to do it was just you know, it was a wonderful feeling for me personally, and you know, just the tradition of our community and our football program to be able to take a team there, and you know, hopefully one day, you know, may get to try it again if we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for you, Coach. And then before we take a break, I want to mention some famous people from Jennings, Louisiana. One, I didn't know this, Cleve Francis, country singer, is from Jennings.
Correct. Sure is.
Big-time singer, and then we'll keep dropping some names. Jennings has had their share of people come out of that town, great town, Jennings, Louisiana. We got Coach Rusty Phelps, the head football coach. We're going to go take a break. We'll be right back. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is the head football coach of Jennings High School football team, Rusty Phelps. Rusty's been there head coach, 26 years. And, Coach, we talked about it the other day, but I want to talk about your current seniors, because we tend to just move on real fast and, people are forgotten about. But, these kids are graduating, coming up, and you've got some good kids, part of a lot of winning seasons. Their eligibility's done. Hopefully, we wish they had another year, right? Some of these guys.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I want to mention your big D tackle that, was impressive. Started 4 years for you, Keenan Landry, 6'1", 300-something pounds. I don't know how, 3-something. Didn't he sign with Gulf Coast, Mississippi Junior College, Coach?
He signed with Gulf Coast, Mississippi Junior College. And, that was I really felt like that he's probably one of the many kids that this COVID really affected because of schools not being able to come out. I mean, Keenan started in January of his junior year, got down to, 315, was light on his feet. Had worked hard on his conditioning. And then we can't have spring practice, but his discipline, that he has, he just kept working and working and working and working. And then, nobody could really just sit there and take a look at him, eyeball him, and, just see how much of the hard work he put in and how quicker he was. And, it was on tape, but you know how it is. I mean, we want to look at him, we want to see him and that kind of stuff. But, so it was just he decided to go to one of the premier junior college programs in the nation, and continue to work on his game. And we wish him all the success in the world of chasing that Division I, Power 5.
Yeah, and Keenan should go back D1 if he does what he's supposed to do there, Coach, and keeps his weight down and has those great feet that he showed as a freshman, sophomore. And then Ethan Trahan was a big old lineman, good-looking kid for you. Lawrence Wilridge. Jalen Lewis that came over because of the hurricane with Barb was a good back for you this past year. Jacorian Palfrey, good-looking receiver, played some DB. Tanner, I might butcher this name, Coach. Eastry or Eastry?
East. Tanner East.
East. And was a good-looking receiver for you, good high school football player. And another good high school football player later, Colby Estes. Yeah, those two guys were leaders for you. So good group of guys that move on, part of a lot of wins for you.
They during that stretch where, you could tell as a freshman that this bunch had an opportunity to be pretty special. And, and then as we played them all, basically the ones that you mentioned as sophomores out of need have to, and then as juniors they really attacked it, that hey, we're veterans, we have to pretty much carry the team, and they did a great job of leading our team for 2 years. We had some some pretty banged up kids last year in the quarterfinals that were just trying to patch it and go. And I'm not taking anything away from Madison Prep because they were an excellent football team, very well coached. We fought, as hard as we could in that one and just came up short. I really, felt really bad for those guys because of all the work and dedication that they had put into the program, and kind of riding with that young team, everybody back type of deal. And just great to coach them, fun to coach them, and they were a special group, and the long history of Jennings High School football.
We're going to take a break again. We've got the head football coach, Rusty Phelps, one of the longest tenured head coaches in the state of Louisiana at Jennings High School. Another tidbit from Jennings, someone that's from Jennings, Louisiana, went to Sulphur High School, but professional Major League Baseball player is a native of Jennings, Pat Rapp.
Yes.
Big-time baseball player, MLB guy. Just throwing out a little bit of Jennings information every time we go to a break. We'll be back with more Coach Rusty Phelps, the head football coach at Jennings High School. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest is head coach Rusty Phelps, the head football coach of Jennings High School. What a great town. I go through, Coach, every time I go to Lake Charles or, before I get to Lake Charles, I always stop in Jennings and get me a Coke or something off the interstate. And Jennings is my spot, when I because if I got to, go to the restaurant with something, it's like I better do it because it's going to be a little stretch before I get to Lake Charles. And what a great town. Love Jennings. Great people. Speaking of Jennings, let me mention some all-state players. You would be impressed by this, Coach. I went and did my deep in the vault trying to find some stuff on Jennings. But here's guys that have made all-state since 1983. I'll start 83 up. Melvin Adams, running back, went to Tulane, 1983.
Melvin Adams is a pillar in our community. He helps us in our junior high program. Always, Melvin's a police juror in our in our city. He also works in our school system, and Melvin does a really great job in the community aspect for us. Comes out, helps with our junior high program. Went on to Tulane, had a fabulous career, and just one of these guys that's come back home and that loves his town and loves his city and wants to get back.
Yeah, and famous for having good games against LSU in the 80s.
Yes, he did.
1985, another great running back all-state from Jennings. Cisco Richard. Cisco was a great back, Coach, in 1985 all-state. 1992, Sean Demerit, all-state.
Yes.
1992, also Lawrence Dixon, another good player. All-state in 95, Curly Guillory.
That now you're getting into my area.
There we go.
I'll go back. Sean Demerit coached for us here for 5 or 6 years. Went on to be the head coach at South Beauregard High School in Westlake. Got into administration and has retired from the school system now. But
wow.
Had a fabulous career. In the teaching profession. And then Curly Guillory, Curly was a fantastic player, just as good a person. But his kids now, he lives in Lake Arthur, very successful.
Okay. And
he has some kids that attend Lake Arthur and have done quite well down there in the athletic area.
And continuing on, Coach, all-state teams for Jennings High School, 1998, Seneca Lee, one of your guys. In
4-year starter.
Yeah, 4-year starter. 1999 all-state, Sean Maynard, one of your guys. And 2014 all-state, Brett Fontenot. And 2012 all-state, Keegan Deville. 2007, Keegan Myers all-state. 2004, Gary Riggs. He was really good. Gary Riggs.
Correct.
And going back to 1970, Brad Boyd, LSU.
Brad Boyd, LSU, yes.
It's a lot of great football. They don't have to be D1 guys to be great football players. These are some all-state guys from your school. What a great group of guys.
Well, you talk about an example of a guy like Keegan Deville. Keegan Deville was a cornerback. I don't know. All schools, have this type of kid. Hangs in the program for 3 years, plays some special teams, and then he breaks out his senior year. And I think he ended up having like 8 or 9 interceptions, and 3 or 4 of those returned for touchdowns. And he just a solid, really solid high school player that had a knack for being around the ball. very, very smart. Going to Sean Maynard. Sean Maynard is a state policeman now in the state.
Oh, go ahead.
Moved back home. Was working out of the Monroe area. Moved back home. Another guy who comes and visits with our players and stuff, and around our program. And that's the thing about these guys. These guys are back in our program. I'll see Sean DeMerit at 2 or 3 of our football games over the course of the year. I'll see Curly Gilry. So that's the great part is you get to talk to these kids about them, and then all of a sudden they come to practice one day, and they get to speak to your team. Gary Riggs, very successful in what he's doing today. And it's just fun for those guys to come back. Alonzo Manuel, a great football player, went on to play at LSU, comes back and visits with our program. So, and it's great for these kids to see. They see their pictures on the wall at school, and all of a sudden they come walking back in.
Yeah.
And they get to share their experiences. And, Lee, and I guess, as we all talk about that, but, they're great football players. The ones that have an opportunity to go on and continue to play it, whether it's Division I, Division II, or whatever. But when they come back with their college degrees,
yes,
that's what we want from our kids. And and I think they just as proud of that college degree as they are if they played in front of 80,000 people in Tuscaloosa.
Well, yeah, it's knowing these kids are going to have that degree for the next 30, 40 years of their life to work, and because the NFL is only a 1%er in the country.
Right.
And then one other player that played for you, Coach, that I was really impressed with, that did well at Louisiana Tech, Bryson Abraham. Bryson was very good player.
Abraham, in college coaching now, coaches the wide receivers at Texas State University. He's doing a wonderful job. He's one of these guys that they talk about fast trackers.
Mm-hmm.
Moving up in the business now. Went to Presbyterian State 3 years. Coach Sapavito, who does a great job. He's had stops at West Virginia, some big time 1A schools, and he hired Bryson. And matter of fact, I talked to Bryson on the phone Wednesday, and always checking in. Comes home, comes and sees us, and it's just been fun to watch him mature and grow into, being a Division I college coach.
Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I know you never get tired of talking about Travis Etienne, and also Trevor, his little brother, who's coming back to you with another year of football. We talked about it the other day, and I want to share a story when I saw Coach on the sideline when Travis was a junior at the Kiwanis Jamboree at ULL. When Travis was a junior before people were recruiting him. We're going to talk about the Etienne brothers and also the players coming back for Coach Phelps that have a chance to lead this team in 221, some of his leaders and top players coming back next year. And I might ask Coach who his favorite coach is in college football. That'll give Coach some time to think about it. Who's the coach that you like from a X's and O's standpoint? Who's your guy? Well, we're going to go take a break. We'll be back with Coach Rusty Phelps from Jennings High School. So, hey, guys, just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships right here worth checking out. John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, and Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Rusty Phelps, the head football coach at Jennings High School. If you don't know where Jennings is and you're not from Lake Charles and you're not from Lafayette, South Louisiana, it's not far from Lafayette, maybe an hour, not far from Crowley at all, not far from Lake Charles, maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes, and great town, great people. Coach has been there 26 years as the head coach, 27 overall. Coach, getting into talking about Travis Etienne, who just finished his career with Clemson. I can't believe it's like a It's like snap your fingers, he's done, you know. And it seemed like yesterday he was a junior, and that's when I was at a game, and I didn't know that I was going to go to that game, and I don't even think I called you, but I happened to be on your sideline, and I was staying away from you because you know, I was giving your respect on just being on the sideline while you were coaching. And I remember me and you had a moment there where you said, Lee, and I guess because Jamboree, you know, it's not count, we could talk a little bit. You said, Lee, I want you to watch a guy tonight. And he said, I want you to watch my guy here to return these punts and kicks, but I want you to watch him play running back. He's the best I've seen in 30 years. And when you said that, I said, whoa, Coach Phelps is telling me the best in 30 years that he's seen. And I watched him. I think the next play he returned to kickoff, and then he started at running back, and I just watched how gifted he was and his endurance, his quickness hitting a hole, just things that were different. And I looked at you after about a quarter, and I said, Coach, man, I don't have enough notepad to write about this kid. and I remember how that, you know, obviously that recruiting was crazy and whatever. So he goes to Clemson, has a great career. He's going to get drafted high. I hope he goes in the first round. I think it's going to be great for the town of Jennings and his family. And then you have his little brother who I watched as a sophomore when he was about 5'8", and then I watched him this year, and he's about 5'10" and some chain. I'm like, man. And then I was like, his sophomore year, I said, you know, this little guy's got some power. And then last year, I said, man, he's got size and power. And now he looks a little bit like Clyde in the legs, Edwards Hellier at LSU. But he also looks like some of them Ohio State running backs that you just can't stop inside, outside. And I'm like you, Coach. I think he could be, I hate using the word better, but just the potential. He's got the whole game and more power maybe than Travis.
I think back to that time, Lee. I was visiting with Trevor the other day, and I told Trevor it don't take long for this to go by. And I told him 4 years ago today, 4 years ago this time ago with Travis. I mean, here's a guy who just come off of rushing for, I think it was 2,900 something yards and 55 touchdowns. And he had one offer, and it was from South Alabama. And that was it. He had one offer from South Alabama. And, you know, I kept, I answered the question over, who is this kid? Who is this kid? Well, there was nothing wrong with this kid. He was very quiet, all about the team. Had just been the most valuable player in Class 3A on offense. And, I mean, there was absolutely no traffic. And I couldn't figure it out. Well, so what ended up, I mean, I had the local schools in our area, the McNeese's, the Northwestern, they're asking me, what's wrong with the Power Five? What, and so, I didn't, so I had a friend that through a connection, that was working at an FCC school, and I asked him to take a few minutes, evaluate him, and let me know what direction I need to go, whether it was, SEC, whether it was, in the, in the Sun Belt or Conference USA or something. Just give me something.
Prep schools, whatever.
Just give me a list of schools that I can get this guy to. Well, he calls me back and he goes, what's wrong with it? I said, nothing. I said, he's got grades. He's got the ACT score. The problem with that was Travis wasn't a big camp guy. Travis is just as happy as shooting basketball in the somewhere or whatever else, riding a four-wheeler or a motorcycle or whatever. And, he just wanted to be around his teammates. So, he just was not he wasn't one of these guys that was going to go around and, go to these camps and stuff. I mean, he was just more or less the attitude, well, I'm just going to let my tape, do my talking for me, like you and I talked the other day. And so I remember it was around this time, maybe 1st of April or something. He walked into my office one day and said, "Coach, can I borrow my game cleats?" And I thought it was kind of odd. It was like on a Friday, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go get them." I said, "What?" I said, "What are you fixing to do? You're not going to go play,
Right.
yard football or nothing,
Right,
are you?"
get hurt or something, yeah.
He said, "No, so I'm going to the NFL Combine. I mean, to the Nike Combine in New Orleans." And I said, "You are?"
Huh.
He said, "Yeah." He said, "I read online where they're going to take the 5 fastest 40s, and they're going to run them in a 40 at the end of it. And, I want to go see where I stack up."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so to be honest with you, I'd forgotten about it. I mean, he took off to New Orleans with his folks and stuff. And all of a sudden, I get this call from the prep writer out of the New Orleans Times-Picayune. "Coach, you know what Travis Etienne just ran?" I said, "No, I don't." He goes, "Here's clocked to 4.38.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Oh, that's okay. Well, I figured it'd be,
Fast.
somewhere around there." And then all of a sudden, in the same afternoon, I'm talking to Texas A&M. I'm talking to Tennessee. I'm talking to Arkansas. I'm talking to Alabama. I'm talking, to these people, and I'm like, trying to tell y'all. And I always stuck by this statement. I said, if he was in New Orleans, in the New Orleans area, where the media, he would have been the number 1 player in the country.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Just because, and I mean, this was, he ran against Clyde, who who went on to, who's having a great career, Super Bowl champion with the, the Kansas City Chiefs,
LSU and stuff.
Yeah. LSU national champion, and then also a name that was in that group of 5 was the young man out of Mississippi that went to who was the number 1 back in the country, Florida State.
Yeah, with the Rams now. With the Rams doing great.
With the Rams. So all of a sudden this guy breaks the tape, and he blows up, and the next thing all of a sudden everybody knows who this guy is. But here's the thing about Travis: never changed. Travis never changed, and that's a credit to his family. You see him now; he handles himself very well. He never talks about himself. It's always about the team. He went back to Clemson for his senior year. Probably could have been a first-round draft choice coming out of his junior year, but went back. The degree was important to him, just what we mentioned a little bit ago. And, the degree and being around his coaches and making himself better, there was something that he felt like he needed to continue to work on before he got to the NFL. And he goes and I think catches 45, 50 footballs this year, So, to become a complete back, he didn't want to be known as a 2-down back. He wanted to be known as a 3-down back. And so now he's put himself in position to really go, very high pick in the NFL draft. And, knowing Travis the way I know him, I feel like that, he's going to take the same work ethic, the same humbleness, and, and go on to the, NFL and be the same way.
And, Coach, you don't see very often. I don't see this very often in high school football or in college. And you see it in the pros, obviously, once they get there. But brothers that end up being great, 2 brothers in the same family. Like the Bosa brothers, right? There's 2 of those. The Wyatts, right? The J.J. Wyatt and his 2 brothers. And, Eli and Archie, Eli, Archie Manning, Peyton Manning.
Yep.
That thing. And now you got the Etienne brothers. And Trevor, before I saw his sophomore film or when he played for as a freshman, I didn't have an opinion, obviously, because I'm like you. I'm old school. I can't wait to see him play. Yeah. But when I saw him, I'm like, I cannot believe this guy is as good as his brother. And now he's better. I think he could be a better player in the end, which is very rare to see.
Well, I think what's happened is Travis has helped his process a lot. I mean, Travis talks to him about different things. So we wanted to get Trevor involved in the pass. Trevor's an outfielder on our baseball team.
Okay.
And you just see how he can go and he can track balls. Well, we wanted to get him the football, also out of the backfield. Well, remember as a sophomore down at McDonough 35 that night, we ran him out of the backfield. And he essentially caught the touchdown with a guy right over his shoulder. So he's continued to, progress catching the football. I think he's way ahead of the game how they take, and spread offenses and put guys in the slot now. I mean, this is a guy, he's getting very high, marks from colleges about being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Travis has stressed the importance of him to him about to be a complete back, you've got to learn how to block. So whatever Travis, guides him, mentors him on, that's what he tries to work on. And, he's gotten better with his vision. And Travis has talked to him about, you have to be a guy that can run between the tackles in college, especially with these inside zones and this kind of thing. So, I think that's something unique. I think you look at the core of the schools that run our type of offense, the split back veer. I think we offer something, as far as these running backs go. One, they got to run between the tackles. They got to be tough. And then, third thing is they got to be a really good athlete to catch a pitch with somebody bearing down on you.
Yeah.
So, I think that, I look at over Travis's career for 4 years. The one thing that jumps out of my mind is ball security. He had 3 fumbles in 4 years.
It's incredible.
I think, you look at Trevor going into his senior year, 2 or 3. I think 2 fumbles over, 3 years. So, I just think, the God-given talent. And, I joke with people all the time. It's your A coaching. I can promise you that.
Hey, Coach, this is my notes on him. Can cut and spin with incredible power for 200 pounds plus. Something I don't see every day, to be able to cut on a dime and then jump and then be able to run over, run past, run through. He reminds me of 2 running backs, Coach. He reminds me of J.K. Dobbins at Ohio State. That's now with the Ravens. And he reminds me a little bit of Cecil Diesel Collins with his build.
When you look at him, everybody was used to us seeing Travis at 190. Travis played about 188 his senior year. And, now here, he steps out, walks up. He's 215 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's 215 pounds. So up top, he's more developed. But here's the key, Lee, to this whole thing with him. We very rarely see him in the weight room. Now, he does a lot of stuff on it, outside of the school.
Yeah.
But plays football, steps off the football field, takes 2 or 3 days off, goes and plays basketball, leaves basketball, will go to track practice in 7th hour, and then he goes and plays in the outfield for our baseball team and hits second. Wow. So what weight room he does get is in the summer, basically.
But all those other sports programs make him super flexible with that 215 is solid,
Correct.
It's not bulky.
He's amazing to watch. He's amazing to watch a guy in an open floor in a basketball game. At 5'10", he plays like he's 6'4". Or 6'5". He's literally our post guy, and both of them are incredible athletes that come from incredible families that have so much support, that provide so much support for us, and who knows, we may end up having another jersey retired. The Etienne brothers at our school by the time this deal's over with.
Coach, you told me that Ohio State is on him pretty heavily because I think he reminds him of very similar to Dobbins, a lot of the backs they've had at Ohio State. Obviously, Ed Orgeron's recruiting him really hard. You had mentioned that to me. Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss, but we can go on and on and on. Just the coaches that are trying to get him to visit their campuses when everything opens up And like you said, until this opens up, we really won't have an idea of where he's wanting to go. I do know, talking to you the other day, that Clemson's not a lock. He's a wide open with everybody. And, LSU is a great possibility in the end. If
Correct.
LSU fans are listening. But everybody is on him right now. Again, we won't know what he's going to do until he can start visiting some of these schools in the country. But you had mentioned Ohio State, and I don't remember Ohio State ever coming here for a running back.
Well, it kind of got up on us. I mean, as far as, you think of the, I think you think of the Etienne brothers. I mean, one played in the South at Clemson, and, great career, All-American and everything. So you kind of think of those guys as, playing in the SEC, the ACC, or, a conference like that. They've been in constant contact with him. I've spoken to the running back coach also, and, it's not a rush process with them. That's what I kind of, they're a heavy hitter too. And, they're kind of like, they're, LSU and Alabama and Georgia, these guys, they can afford to, they're going to find their best 25 for what they do. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, he's in constant contact with them and everything. And, I think that's just, it's the Ohio State University. And you look in the Eddie Georges, I know I'm dating myself, but, the Eddie Georges and the running back, that's a tempting place also if you're a really great running back. So, I think it's interesting to him. That was kind of like Travis in Oregon. One of Travis's trips was to Oregon. I just think it's the brand or whatever. But this is just me speaking. I think you'll see him playing in the SEC somewhere.
Yeah, and Coach, there's only one running back I'm thinking in my head right now that went to Ohio State from Louisiana in my 26 years is a kid by name. You're going to remember this kid from John Curtis High School, Jonathan Wells.
Wells, absolutely.
Big power back, 6'2", about 220.
Kind of like the second guy of Eddie George.
Right. They cloned him. They cloned him. I think he followed Eddie George, I believe.
Right.
So now they're trying to clone Dobbins. They tried to clone Archie Griffin that won 2 Heisman trophies, but so that's the only one I can remember.
That's just my gut feeling. It's nothing from him. I think you'll see him play in the SEC.
Yeah, and I know, like you said, Ed Archeron, just for the LSU fans, you had told me he's doing everything he can to recruit them.
Working very, Coach O's MO is hard recruiter, recruit. And, we're seeing the full 3 years of this with Trevor. And, I got to mention Kevin Falk. Who's doing a tremendous job with him. I mean, and Coach O. And so, I mean, Coach O and Kevin are just, grinding it out, and, selling their program. And, they do a great job of selling their program. And, who knows? I think the thing that this is a time process with them. I think, again, Trevor makes the comments all the time. He hopes it opens up where he can go. And, I mean, LSU's basically got a brand new staff.
Yeah.
Where he can go and see and sit down and visit and, his comfort level. Same thing if it was Louisiana Tech or, Tulane or whoever.
Right.
He just wants to be able to feel that. He knows the schools.
Yeah.
He wants to feel that comfort level. And, I think that's just kind of a disadvantage of this COVID stuff right now.
Yeah, I don't think Zoom's the answer to commit. You can see you can see a campus on a video, but you can't feel or take it in on a video.
And I think one thing that's a positive for Clemson is the fact that Okay, Coach Sweeney retains it as he retains his coaches. They all stay. He's been going there for 4 years, so I mean, he understands how they run their program. He understands their offense. He understands their coaches, and so I think that's one thing that they're kind of working with him on is the fact that hey, you've been to North Carolina and you've been to Florida State. You've seen us play and, plenty of times. And, this is our body of work. I mean, 6 straight ACC championships so, I mean, I just think that right now in that department, Clemson has the advantage because he's been on the campus so many times.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if Texas with Sarkisian comes around too for him with Texas.
Right.
Being that they're a new staff in Austin trying to sign players all over. Coach, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of your other players coming back.
Good.
You've got some sleepers. You got some guys that aren't going to be recruits, going to be great football players, and you got some guys that have a chance to be recruits next year for 221. We're listening to Rusty Phelps, our head football coach at Jennings High School here. As a guest today. We'll be right back.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Coach Rusty Phelps, Jennings High School in Jennings, Louisiana. Coach, there's a couple of other people that were known to come out of the Jennings area, but they didn't go to high school there, which is kind of crazy, but they're from Jennings. They were born in Jennings. Monty Ledbetter played receiver for the Houston Oilers with the Northwestern State. Another guy, June James, went to high school in Missouri, but was raised in Jennings, played for, was at Texas University, played in the NFL. So a couple of more natives from Jennings, Louisiana. Talking about some other guys coming back, intriguing kids that if they really have a great summer, great spring for you, they could end up being some signees this year. Jayden Smith, your offensive lineman, 6'4", 285. We talked about Jayden. If he continues to improve, he's got a chance to be a college recruit.
Well, Lee, everybody, the hot thing is the hot defensive lineman, in the recruiting trails, offensive lineman and defensive lineman.
Right.
And he looks the part. I mean, he has the height, he has the length and stuff. And, that was probably could slide into being a guard for somebody. But we moved him into center. That was the only position that we did not have coming back off of that state runner-up team. Never snapped the ball before, but, took to the position, has done really well at that position, and continues to get better for us. He'll be the guy that leads our offensive line this year, kind of taking the Trahan boy's place from the last couple of years, who was a 3-year starter for us. And, we'll build around him at center and with some young guys and some guys that's got some playing experience. But, Jayden has played a lot of football for us. And, we're excited about him continue to improve and getting better. And, I really felt like probably midway through the season last year, we didn't get to have spring, like everybody else, but really felt like he started coming on and understanding what we were doing and was able to start making some calls for us, some stuff up front, and really came on. So it's going to be interesting to see. He keeps growing, and if he gets some looks from, his size wise and ability to play up front.
A kid I love for you, we talked about him the other day, and we both agree that it's not what you run in the 40 that makes you a recruit sometimes or makes you a football player. But Jayden Smith, who plays a little rush DN, linebacker, does everything. He is a big-time football player, 6 foot tall, 225, super strong, super high-effort kid. Not a guy that it's the camp thing, like we said. I'm not a big camp guy anyway, but Jayden Smith is a football player and a guy that I think he could be a college football starter, 1AA easily at that next level.
Great motor. I mean, great motor. He's going to bring it every day, whether it's weight room, whether it's outside agility. Just loves the game of football. And, guy that who's now, he started for us all 15 games as a sophomore in this core group of kids that we have that'll be seniors this year. Leader on defense. He's really one of these guys that buys into how you practice is how you're going to play. And so, he's going to go as hard against the practice team as he is on Friday night against an opponent. And hope that he stays healthy and hope that somebody will click that film on and look at him and say, hey, we want this guy on our team. And, could very well easily turn around and play tight end for us. I just hope that, guy's been playing for us now for 2 years, has 17 sacks, and just hopefully he, stays healthy. And, at the end of the day, somebody says, we want this guy to be a part of our program because of how hard he plays and, the motor and stuff. So, he's working extremely hard in the weight room. I feel like probably he'll play around 235, 240 senior year. And, he can carry it with his frame.
Clay Broussard, coach, is a kid that could play DN tight end for you, late bloomer, 6'3", about 220, a good-looking kid. Hasn't hit his full upside yet, which is a compliment to how much more ability he could show. But Clay Broussard's one of them typical going-to-be senior coaches that we see all the time, that a great off-season, great year could, you never know with him being able to get a college opportunity.
Grit, man. That's why if I had one word, it's just grit, toughness. I'm excited to go out and watch him pitch today at 11 o'clock. He's going to be pitching for us today. And okay. He takes that same mentality to the mound. He's a typical Jennings High School Bulldog. And I think, Clay improved tremendously as a inline tight end blocker this year. Looking forward to him, this summer, getting back probably over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, Lee, you remember correctly, we had some runs, pretty good tight ends around here.
Oh,
yeah. I think he's probably, last 4 or 5 years, we've just had some guys that served as, blockers and not a real catching threat. Mm-hmm. But he had a pretty good many catches for us last year, and can catch the ball and plays faster than he looks on film, I promise you. And, continue to improve his skills in the blocking, and to continue to, catch the ball. I think that, I think he looks, could end up being like one of these hybrid guys that you see. They stand up in a 2-point stance, into an empty set or something like that, because he's a physical runner when he gets with his hands on the football. But, I'm real excited about it. Another one of these guys is, that had a part in, the run that we made 2 years ago to the Superdome.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember a tight end he kind of reminds me of, more of a blocker. Remember a guy named Kyle Kipps that played at Como?
Absolutely, I sure do.
Kyle was 220 in high school, 6'4", more of a blocker, tough kid, could run better than he was timed. And, got to 250 at LSU, had a pretty good career as a blocker,
Correct.
was a good player. And Kyle Kipps, a name from way back. Coach, some other players, not so much for maybe recruiting. Some might end up getting that shot. Just some guys to mention. Isley Mouton, a really good football player for you on the D-line. Undersized, but really strong, 250, 5'9". Mikey Joseph has a chance.
Shorter.
Yeah, what an incredible 4 years. And then Mikey Joseph, a defensive lineman that has a chance to be a really good player on D-line, 255 pounds, 6 foot. And a great player for this program, Ethan Jordell, a DB safety for you.
Oh, look, those 3 kids are they got an opportunity to be the heart and soul of this football team. I mean, you look at, let's see, 2 out of the 3, the 2 defensive tackles played as freshmen.
Mm.
So, I mean, actually started as freshmen. And then you look at Jordell, came on last year, another one of these tough guys. I mean, that just, nothing much bothers him, plays hard in practice, works extremely hard, multi-sport athlete. And, these 3 guys, that you just mentioned, we're really counting on them to build the foundation of our defense this year in that front 6. So, I'm excited to, hopefully the numbers will stay down and we'll get past spring practice, go out there and see how these guys perform.
Coach, 2 questions before we let you go. One is, did you think of a coach that you admire the most, X's and O's, college coach?
Well, I'm going to take you way back here, Lee. You could go with the great picks, but I mean, there's a bunch of them all in there. Nick Saban, Ed Ogeron, Dabo Sweeney, Urban Meyer. But I'm going to take you back, and I guess one that I've kind of patterned was not a Power 5 coach, but grew up watching, wanting to run my program like him. Spent a lot of time with him. Was Pat Collins at ULM.
Wow.
Now I took you back in some time.
Yeah, there you go. You talking about Bubby Brister days, Bob Lane, all those guys.
That's run the ball, play really good defense, and play just sound disciplined football. And I guess I leaned on him throughout my career. If you want to talk about a college coach that I followed the most and had access to sit down hours and talk about programs and players and that kind of stuff. But, I think about him and, guy Bobby Kiesler, Coach Kiesler.
Yeah.
Had the opportunity to work 2 years for him at McNeese. And, the list just goes on. Mike Collins, Tommy Tate, Kirby Brookhouse. I mean, I was around some really good football coaches over a 2-year period of time where I got to soak up and listen. And, those guys won a lot of football games. And, I guess if you're asking me that, like I said, I could go with the big time pick, but I got to go with the ones that I grew up around watching and, kind of getting to go to their practices and, being on one staff and, taking a bunch of ideas from those guys and, how to run a program and how to, sustain a program. And so, I guess if you ask me about those, somebody may have to Google those guys, but, I just, I think if you want to talk about championship caliber football coach, I mean, you look at Pat Collins and Bobby Kiesler.
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of McNeese State people there, a lot of McNeese, a lot of, like I said, those are your people that you learn from, not.
Well, they were open, Coach Viator and Coach Brookhouse and Coach Tate and all those people. I mean, when they became here, it was the same. It was open door policy. I mean, it was the open door policy, and I think you got that going on at LSU now. And I think, from an old guy who's been doing this a long time, I think that's important to high school coaches.
Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome here. And because that's the way it was 32 years ago when I started.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, but I understand, the times have changed, and the internet with, guess what, this is what I saw such and such working on today, and so they got to be a lot more careful. But I think I think Coach O's done that. I think Coach O's brought back it's an open door policy, and look, you guys are welcome to come talk football with us. We got nothing to hide. Here it is.
Yeah.
Type of mentality, and that's the way it was when I started. A long time ago, and it's good, and I think I think the internet's great, and I think all this stuff of this Zoom stuff is fantastic, but there's nothing. I tell young coaches this all the time. It's nothing like sitting across from somebody and getting it.
Yeah, yeah,
and because
yeah, it's true.
And I can sit here and I can be watching a Zoom meeting or something or whatever, but a clinic on Zoom, but I can get easily distracted too if something else is going on in my house. But it's nothing like sitting across and old guys just sitting there drawing on napkins, talking about football, and that's just that was the great days of being a young high school coach. We didn't have none of that. You couldn't buy a DVD. You couldn't sign up for a clinic online. Yeah. You had to go hunt it down. And I think about high school. That that's the way high schools used to be. It was always just an open door policy, and guys got together. And I still love doing this to this day. I mean, we had a great session this summer in June. Matt McCullough from Acadiana brought a couple of guys over. We had a couple of guys in there, and then Jeff Wainwright from Grand Lake brought a couple of guys over.
Okay.
We sat in there. It's like the time just passed, and I mean, we just sat in there and were kicking around split back beer, and so I mean, that's high school football to me, and and learning and that kind of stuff. Even I mean, you look at all the success Matt McCullough's had and Jeff have had, in 5A levels and that kind of stuff, and then you sitting around in there and you're just talking and you gathering different ideas. And I'd like to see the game go back to that.
Yeah.
As far as sitting around and talking. I mean, I can remember, Lee attending the clinic when it used to be in Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. Date myself now at the old Belmont Hotel.
Right.
Okay. At the old Belmont Hotel.
That's way back. That's way back, Coach.
Well, you could go over there and you could find a room, and there would be Red Franklin in there holding a clinic on the wing deep.
Wow.
I mean, Dale Weiner, talking, something.
Yeah.
And to me that was what it was about. And I learned a lot of football sitting there like that with, guys sitting there, and, you just keep talking. Okay, let's go get something to eat. And you continue to talk, and then you go back to a room and you talk. And then, we got fortunate enough, and this thing called the whiteboard came along.
Yeah.
And then it really got good because you didn't have to have paper and napkins.
Right, and, just erase and do it again.
That's it. And, the influence of people like Max Calderera, Jimmy Shaver, Mike Johns from me, Louis Cook. I've been very fortunate to be in the area that I have because I've been around some really great football coaches.
A lot of great ones that you just mentioned. A lot of Hall of Famers.
Yes, and you learn a lot. To this day, I still ask Jimmy Shaver about things. To this day, I still ask Mike Johns, things, and call Coach Cook about something. So, I've just been fortunate to be around some great guys, came along at a good time, and who, like you said, are Hall of Famers, whether it be in the Louisiana Hall of Fame or the High School Hall of Fame, and, to learn football from.
And, Coach, I want to mention this for young college coaches listening or people getting into coaching, and I think you'll probably agree with me because you're old school too. I grew up in the 70s, and my dad was a coach, and one thing that I wish and hope that doesn't go away because it's going to ruin the game is that when you go try to sign a player, and like we told the story about Travis, is that please make sure the kid's a football player first, and then, by the way, he can run. Or, by
Absolutely.
the way, he can play the game at that position at our level, but yet he's a football player, because so many great football players are not being recruited today because they're getting too caught up in the times at camps, and doesn't
Right.
make you a football player.
And, you know, I can remember sitting with Coach Kiesler, and I'll never forget this, because, I mean, you know, sitting there with him, and it would be coming up on the time for us to have, and McNeese was still one of the only people that was having the 3-day camps. You know, it was, you know, we run in here on Saturday for 3 hours, then we're out, you know, but we still had the traditional practice twice, sleepover camp, lasted 3.5 days or however long. And I remember Coach would say, do not bring me nobody in T-shirt and shorts to offer them.
I love it.
And so that goes back to the late 80s and early 90s. But, you know, I mean, he said, you know, he would emphasize that point. Do not bring me no guy, you know, in T-shirts and shorts to offer.
Yeah. The game is played in pads.
And you know, and that's what he stuck by. And, you know, you look at the success he had around, you know, that's why I try to curb my enthusiasm when we're in shorts in August, because that thought keeps coming back to my head about that. Mm-hmm. You know, let's see what this cat's going to do in pads before we talk about how great he's going to be or how good a player he's going to be for us. So that's just old school, Lee. You know, I guess that's the way I am, you know, and, you know, and I think that's, you know, we just, you know, I guess you get your core values and you try to stick with them.
Yeah, that's how I was raised with my dad watching the game, and I know that when that ball snapped and you're in pads, that's where you're going to see who's tougher and who can really do those skills in pads. And if it was flag football, Coach, we'd be talking about something else, but it's not flag football.
We'd be talking about something else. You're exactly right.
Coach, thanks for taking the time, for being with us, and I'm very much a big fan. I've always been a big fan of yours from afar, what you've done at Jennings, and consistently a winner every year, and what you do for those kids in that community and Jennings as their coach. Appreciate you being on today.
Well, thank you for having me. And, you know, heck, maybe we get this thing turned around with this COVID and we can get back to some spring football and then regular summer workouts. And, you know, just excited about the state of Louisiana and football right now in general. And, you know, it's a lot of great coaches, a lot of you know, great coaches, great players. It's good for our state, I think, it's, you know, and, you know, Lee, look forward to seeing you down the road.
Coach, don't hang up. I want everybody to go to our website. We've got some great articles on some high schools. Jennings will be one of those before this coming season's over, but we do different articles. Jace Lejeune's done a good job for us writing some of the articles. Go to lafootballmagazine.com. We're working on our 25th year. I'm getting old. 25th year, Coach. Football preview will come out this September, 25 years for us. Again, you're listening to Coach Rusty Phelps. We will see you on Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.